Hi guys, so synoptic question. What I mean by this is basically the last question you're going to get on the exam paper is going to bring two parts of the course together, two parts of the unit together, just to try and kind of link your learning as well as almost testing your knowledge essentially. So I can't tell you what they're going to ask you. However, I can give you a heads up with regards to the last four papers, all the papers you have access to. I can show you the last question and I can show you the similarities between them. Okay. So as I've got here, this is usually the last question of the exam. What it tends to do is bring two aspects of the unit together. For example, it may ask you to evaluate the benefits of musculoskeletal adaptations and energy system adaptations, the cardiorespiratory adaptations, musculoskeletal and cardiovascular system adaptations, or the muscular adaptations and skeletal adaptations. And it wants you to discuss them. Now, it may say responses. It's either going to be the responses or the adaptations, and it tends to be two of them together. Now, here I've made a bit of a mistake because this first one, would ask you to talk about three of them. They don't want you to do that. So if they say musculoskeletal, what they mean by that is both the muscular system and the skeletal system. Okay, so they may word it like musculoskeletal. However, they won't ask you to do energy systems as well because that's three. So, for example, this was one of the questions in one of the exams, the last question, cardiorespiratory adaptations. So you'd have to talk about the cardiovascular adaptations. You'd also have to talk about the respiratory adaptations. That one would be ideal. It'd be perfect with regards to that's the memory method 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 that you would use. Or they might ask you at the bottom here about the muscular adaptations and the skeletal adaptations, and you'd have to be able to identify the difference between the different adaptations that we've learned and be able to discuss them. What I've produced for you here is just a quick responsive notations for each system and the memory methods we have used. So for the skeletal system responses, we get an increased uptake of minerals, i.e. calcium, makes bone stronger, reduces the risk of injury. Increased production of synovial fluid. They're the two responsive for the skeletal system. And with regards to the adaptations, we get an increased bone strength and an increased ligament strength. Now we get the increased bone strength because of this increase in uptake of minerals we get with regards to the responses. Solman B is the way we remembered that this here also has the additional factors in as well. So their responses of skeletal system, adaptation, skeletal system. With regards to the muscular system, we didn't actually have any memory methods. So the response of the muscular system, there's quite a few. You've got to think, okay, you're going to start running. What's going to start happening to your muscles when you start exercise? You get an increased blood supply. You get that because you want to get oxygen to the working muscles. You want to remove carbon dioxide. You get an increased muscle temperature. Remember, that's because of metabolic activity, i.e. those enzymes that we use to break down phosphocreatine, for example, creatine kinase, that enzyme there, a waste product of that happening is an increase in muscle temperature. What does this lead to? Increase in muscle pliability. This means that they're more flexible. This means it's going to reduce the risk of injury. So that's another muscular response. We get lactate, increased lactate. So lactic acid occurs in the muscle. That is obvious when it comes to a muscular system response. We also get micro tears due to resistance training, and finally delayed onset of muscle soreness. Now, what are the adaptations to the muscular system? You have to think when you exercise, your muscles get bigger. Okay, so hypertrophy occurs. You get increased tendon strength, increased in the number and size of mitochondria. That's similar to the energy systems adaptation. Increased myoglobin stores. Remember, myoglobin is a protein that transports oxygen to the mitochondria. Increased storage of glycogen and fat, increased tolerance to lactate. These muscular system adaptations are very similar to the energy system adaptations. Why? Well, because the energy takes place, or to have energy with regards to muscular contractions, it needs to happen at the muscle. That's why they're similar. So they're the skeletal system and the muscular system responses adaptations. We also have the respiratory responses, so increased breathing rate, increased tidal volume. Respiratory adaptations, which are increased vital capacity, increased strength of respiratory muscles, increase in O2 and CO2 diffusion rate. Now, remember the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 memory method. If you write all of those out on a piece of paper, you then have to understand which ones go for which one of these, if that makes sense. So, for example, number 5 rhymes with drive. Drive, you may crash. Crash, mechanics of breathing, i.e., our mechanics of breathing are better. Again, increased strength of respiratory muscles is what you have to try and remember from that. And the same with this increase in oxygen CO2 diffusion rate. That's to do with number 2. So number 2 rhymes with few, diffusion. So you've got diffusion rate there. Increased vital capacity you could link to tidal volume. So tidal volume memory is number 3. 3 rhymes with C. You think of waves. You may think of a tidal wave. Tidal volume increases. There's your memory methods for the respiratory responses. This is brilliant because, as I just said, this also links with the cardiovascular responses, which we're going to go through now. Cardiovascular responses. So what happens as soon as we start to exercise? Well, we get an increase in cardiac output, anticipatory rise, redirection of blood flow. That's the vascular shunt mechanism. Remember, vasodilation of the blood vessels at the muscle, vasoconstriction of the blood vessels at the vital organs. Blood pressure increases, heart rate increases. You remember the CV responses by cardiovascular as opposed to vascular, i.e. CAR, DIO, and then the PH. The C stands for cardiac output, A anticipatory rise, R redirection of blood flow, P pressure, blood pressure increases, H heart rate increases. Cardiovascular adaptations, we get cardiac hypertrophy, i.e. the heart gets bigger and stronger, specifically the left ventricle wall. This increases our stroke volume. Remember, stroke volume, we have to think of venous return, i.e. the amount of blood going back to the heart, as well as Starling's law, the stretch of the ventricle. Decrease in heart rate, decrease in blood pressure, and finally capillarization of the muscle and alveoli, increase in blood volume. Now, once again, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 works with this. Remember, number 1, you think of home run, you think of baseball. Baseball, hope you think of baseball caps, capillarization of the muscle. Okay, that's number 1. You've got cardiac hypertrophy, number 4. 4, award, you get a trophy. When you get a trophy, you get excited, you become hypertrophy of the cardiac muscle. Number 9 is dine. You go to a restaurant, they bring you ravioli. When you order ravioli, comes out, it's too small, you take it back because you want bigger ravioli. Ravioli rhymes with alveoli, bigger alveoli you get. And then increase in blood volume. Number 6, you've got to think number 6, flicks. So number 6 rhymes with flicks. Flicks, you think of flick knife. When you think of flick knife, think of stab. When you think of stab, you think of blood. Loads of blood, you get an increase in blood volume. There's loads of blood everywhere, so you get more blood. So that is the CV adaptations. Finally, the energy system adaptations. You've got lactate tolerance increases, utilization of fat, creatine store increases, aerobic energy system, increased storage of glycogen, the number of mitochondria. The way you remember that is Lucozade. That is spelled terribly wrong. I'm tired. Lucadze, Lucozade, or however you spell it, but it's definitely not Lucozade. So obviously that's a typo. What I want you to do is get used to writing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 down with the memory method, because if it comes up, you're going to be kicking yourself, because I think that's a really useful, easy way to remember those adaptations. And you have to remember that it's for the respiratory and the cardiovascular adaptations, and you also have to be able to split them up with regards to which one means which. Cardiovascular, okay, for CV responses. Energy system adaptations, Lucozade. The reason it's important is you're going to find out in a minute. So, first question, this was the last question on one of the papers. Analyse how adaptations of Suki's cardiorespiratory system could improve her marathon running performance. Cardio, okay, cardiovascular, respiratory adaptations. You've got to think of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. If you mention all of those within detail with regards to how it's going to improve her running performance or her marathon performance, it's going to make her perform for longer at high intensities, reducing the result of fatigue, you're going to be on the right lines with that. So that's the memory method we use for that. So if you pause this and give this a go. So there's your answer. Next one, you had analyse how long-term adaptations of Paula's cardiovascular and energy systems affect her football performance. Again, this is the last question on the exams. Cardiovascular, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Energy systems, you've got to think Lucozade. Can you give that a go for me? So pause this and give it a go. There's your answer. Freya is a National League badminton player and regularly competes in high-level competitive events. Her weekly training schedule involves high-intensity interval training and intense long-distance running. Analyze how the physiological adaptations to the muscular and energy systems as a result of these intense training methods can improve Freya's badminton performance. That is a difficult one, but once again, adaptations. So adaptations to the muscular system, you have to talk about those first. Then adaptations to the energy systems, Lucozade. One of the things you have to realise is Lucozade C, creatine phosphate. What did I say? Improved creatine phosphate stores in the muscle. It's high intensity exercise. A weekly training schedule involves high intensity interval training. So you have to kind of make it relevant to the question. With regards to this question, it's important the fact she's a badminton player. You're going to have to, for an analysis question, you're going to have to say pros, cons, how is it going to actually help her with regards to badminton? And that's something you're going to have to talk about. So pause this and give this a go. There's your answer. Have you noticed a lot of it is through the application to performance level badminton? Another one, 8 marker, analyse, this time it's the responses, but analyse the response of the muscular and cardiovascular system to the warm-up. So once again, it's either a response or an adaptations question, and it usually, on all of them, it's asked about two of the actual kind of processes we've gone through, either the skeletal system, muscular system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, or energy system. It is vital that over the weekend you really nail the responses and adaptations so you understand those. So when it comes to these 8 marks, you're giving yourself the best opportunity. Don't forget, when we looked at the grade boundaries, 9 marks to get a near pass, whatever it was. You could get the majority of that in one of these questions if you just learn the responses and adaptations properly. You've got the method, you all know it. It's just about not panicking and picking out the information they need. So pause this and give this one a go. There's your answer for this one. And that's it, guys. So I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, I'll be on the second floor all day. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. By tomorrow, I mean Friday. If you're watching this on Saturday, I'm not going to be on the second floor on a Sunday. Right, cheers. Bye.